To it, thank you. Okay, now there's been a few amendments floating around. I'll just get Gary Watson to present this, and he will make a bit of clarity, hopefully, on the way through. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. So I promise I have no PowerPoints, and I will be open and transparent. So the report in front of you I'll take as read. The job basically was to go away and look at citywide projects that addressed safety issues or safety initiatives that we had. At the time of this report, we were in a climate of high youth crime. We were in a climate of many ram raids, and part of the request was there. What council asked for was these community safety and crime prevention initiatives will support situational crime prevention in the central city and suburbs, as well as social and community-based crime prevention, with a particular focus on youth. It also said that a flexible approach will be required to ensure that there's the ability to target initiatives and to address issues as they arise in different locations and neighbourhoods. So I won't go through everything because I'm sure there's questions on most things, but yeah, I'll just take the report as read and happy to answer any questions and work through whatever we need to work through.
Okay, just what we have got here, just so I'm on the right track, Gary, this was part of the Better Off funding of about 32-ish odd million.
Oh, sorry, yes.
And this is 2 million of that, which we decided to spread around in these various places.
So 1.97 million is left here. 100,000 has already been allocated to CCTV.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
is the
so
total pot.
One thing I want to make very clear here today, and I said it yesterday at our briefing, which was not in public, there is $116,000 left. Now, and I said at that briefing, now, it's not a target, don't go out and rush and do it. And I know some councillors have already put in, I want a bit of this, I want a bit of that. I'm just taking that right off the table. If anyone wants a part of that $116,000 for their area, you are the man to go and see about it. We are not making a decision here on what's left of your 116, because that's your department. You know damn sight more about it than we do. So otherwise we'll end up into a competition, and that's not fair. So anyway, any questions of Mr. Watson? Councillor Johansson.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate the work that you've done on this. I was just trying to understand how you've come up with the priority areas for the smart poles, particularly like Hornby and Papanui and Brighton, and also how will you choose the location within those areas for the smart poles? Because I guess the reason for asking is there's areas like Phillipstown, Wolston, Bromley, for example,
Sure.
which I've also had requests for free Wi-Fi or air monitoring.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering how we're working through where the priority is for those smart poles.
So at the moment, the Smart Poles project came out where there is a briefing around New Brighton already for a smart pole. The opportunity with this money was to look at trialling or putting in two others. When I looked at the citywide request for this funding, it seemed appropriate that one in the east, one in the south, and one in the north was a good way of saying it was across the city. Having said that, those are suggestions. There's been no work done on official sites. When the areas are chosen, we will then go and consult with boards and community around where the poles should go. This was a little bit about let's get the poles and do the work after that. But certainly my drive was to try and spread these three across the city.
Okay, Councillor Henstock, please.
Thank you. Just carrying on with the comment in relation to the smart poles. If the trial is successful, where does the funding come from for the installation of additional poles?
I might just ask Michael, who's here. He might be able to tell me, or he might not.
I think the intention would be to review the results of the trial in terms of, I suppose, have people get value and the community gets value from the poles in those 3 locations, and build a business case for further funding from there, but based on, I suppose, the engagement we get from the public, how much people are using Wi-Fi, how, I suppose, the impact on crime, if people are feeling safer in those communities, because obviously safety is a key driver for the project.
Thank you. I'm comforted to hear there's going to be a business case around that. My next question then is there going to be a comms piece around the smart poles? I've had a number of people dropping in to my library sessions where they talk about this and they're not overly keen about it for one reason or another. Concerned about the technology.
Talk to that. Yep, so we've done a number of newsline stories on the 2 poles that went in at Naval Point. So there was quite a lot of coverage around SailGP and quite a bit of interest in that area. So that was the initial implementation. In terms of, we also produced a video. The project was entered into the Algam Awards and it actually won its category for Best Smart Cities Project of the Year. So we're certainly planning to kind of leverage all of our communication channels to promote the polls and get feedback from people on what they think about it and how they want to interact with them.
Okay, Councillor McClellan, did you have one? Thanks.
You may not be able to answer this one. Christchurch City Holdings Emerging Technology and Innovation Hub. What is that?
So that comes from some work that's been happening over the past 3 or 4 years to look at opportunities for, I suppose, different parts of the CCHL group to work together on emerging opportunities, whether it's climate change or developing things like the smart poles. So Kinetics has been the chief collaborator, obviously part of the family. So it's very much a journey together. They've been learning about the technology and they've been developing that part of the business to hopefully expand in the future.
Is that a staffed resource, or is it just what it's called when these entities collaborate?
It was just the name for the Emerging Technology Group initially. It's had a few iterations, but it's just looking at those shared opportunities for different parts of the group and council to collaborate.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Councillor Peters, please.
Thank you. Fascinated to see the smart poles in the locations you've sort of suggested there. Could you clarify exactly what smart pole entails? It's not just Wi-Fi, I'm sure.
Yep. So I suppose one of the key aspects of it is that the pole is hollow and modular. So the idea is that you can fit in different modules in to suit the application. So it reflects what's needed in the community. So, I mean, thinking about New Brighton, we've talked about Wi-Fi from digital equity, but a connectivity thing for kids who may be, without connection. CCTV obviously speaks for itself. That's connected to the police network. We've got pedestrian counting and multimodal counters, which will tell us if people are congregating, let's say, when they shouldn't, let's say, in the middle of the night, or if there's any emerging issues. So there's a range of technology, but we will be working with the community boards to work out what makes most sense in each location. So they're tailored and they're fit for purpose.
Excellent. And are they the sort of thing that they might be an initial installation and then once they've served their purpose, they perhaps migrate to other locations?
Yep, that's a possibility. And also, I mean, there's the possibility of just put the hollow shell of the pole just as a normal street light in areas that mightn't need technology initially, but maybe in 2 or 3 years, because of a new facility, it may make sense to put Wi-Fi or other types of technology in them.
Yep. Thank you. And I guess just something we were talking about earlier, around the smart cities, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and hopefully we can get some comms out there to allay people's fears that we're spying on them, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think behind the smart poles is about, I suppose, giving back to the community and not just watching people, but giving them connectivity or making them feel safe or adding to, those areas as opposed to just being monitoring devices. It's much more than that.
Very good, thank you.
Councillor Scandrett, please.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess every single councillor around here has had concerns from ratepayers with regards to wanting a CCTV coverage, etc., in certain areas. So I'm certainly hoping that when the advice comes back from you, that the police and community patrols have been included in that, because, I mean, it's hard when you go to your constituents and say there's got to be a connection with the police because it's got to be monitored, etc., and there are other areas that may perhaps be under more pressure than ours. So I really want that to be very clear. And just with the comment to Councillor Peters with regards to people being worried about being monitored, etc. If you're on Facebook, TikTok, or have a mobile phone, it's too late. You're being monitored. Just thanks.
Okay, have we got Councillor Donovan?
Hi, this is just a one around the.
I've got you, Tyler.
Sorry. In terms of the provision of some of these projects, which might end up sort of moving the problem around, will there be any monitoring? So I'm thinking about the inner city safety patrols. One of the concerns I've heard from the police is that sometimes what happens is the problem just gets shifted. Mm-hmm. How will we assess the impact on other areas outside the central city as a result of some of the initiatives in this plan?
So I presume probably the first two, 1 and 2. So we get a lot of information back from the mission around where the street community are moving to, the reasons why they move, the pressure that's been put on them in the city. So we certainly have a monitoring of that, and they come and report to council 3 times a year. The Grant to Youth and Cultural Development, this is the project, like a mobile youth work project, out and about. They will start to identify those kind of areas and those hotspots, and we will be in touch with that. But certainly they won't only identify them, but they'll respond to it. Where there is issues, we are imagining, we know it will happen. They will identify and they will start to put some projects in there. I would think that, hotspots generally are, I don't say this as it always happens, but, a month or 6 weeks is a hotspot, really. You go and do some good work in those areas, and wider issues are the ones that are dealt with. So in terms of monitoring, we'll be expecting our partners to be keeping us up with that. We also hear from our communities, and the community boards are very open to letting us know where issues are. Yeah.
And follow-up question, in terms of the data, in terms of where some of the hotspots are currently across the city,
yep.
I'm told that there are sort of 3 suburbs that have higher incidents of various types of antisocial behaviour. Can you just give me a bit more information about the data that's behind some of the decisions around outside of the central city? So
Yeah, I'd like to hear it. It's important.
Well, this is informing the decision about where the money's allocated.
So I'm a little bit confused here. The only place that we've allocated any money is into the Eastern project. The rest of it is across the city. So I'm just trying to understand what the question is.
So in terms of what you've said are some of the hotspots,
sure.
Do we have any information currently about where some of those are? So for instance, the bus exchange is a hotspot, as I understand. Is that correct?
So the bus exchange has been a hotspot. I would not identify it as a hotspot anymore. Okay. The work that's gone in there has been really good and really, really good.
So yep. Are there any other areas that you consider to have hotspots currently?
So hotspots pop up. At one point we had the bus terminal at Northwood. At Northlands, not Northwood. Northlands was. That community board has worked with this community and put in a great project up there out of the money the board was allocated. In terms Addington and that, we're starting to see hotspots around the homeless community. Certainly New Brighton has been an on and off hotspot, but there's also the program that you guys as a board have put in there at the moment, although I understand it's in its last week. But they move. We hear pretty quickly where they are. And the idea of having a mobile youth work project or mobile people, we can start to address those really quickly. We haven't been able to do that before.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, you wouldn't.
Gary.
Yeah, far away. Sorry.
Get up.
Hey, just a quick question around those hotspots. So, those smart poles. Can you talk to the public around what they're made for?
I'll hand back. And in terms of made for, you mean what services they have?
I mean, it's aimed at crime prevention and monitoring, but there are other things associated to those smart poles. I think it'll be of interest to the public.
They've
Yeah.
just done that, Tyler.
So just to go back to Naval Point as an example, as well as the crime cameras, the pedestrian and vehicle counting monitors there, free Wi-Fi, of course, to help with digital equity. And we've got a public address system there as well, which is to help with some of the after-hours antisocial behaviour and for emergency management as well, given that it's quite prone to tsunamis there. For other areas, we've been thinking about from, let's say, from a youth point of view, about cell phone charges. Again, a pretty basic thing, but I suppose if your phone's running out and you're feeling at risk, it's an important thing. And we've been thinking about and talking about other options completely open if the technology's there and it adds value. I suppose one of the key things about the modular nature is the flexibility. As new technology comes out, or if there's new use cases, we have the ability to either incorporate it or swap it out as and when it makes sense.
I would
Yeah,
really
great.
like to
That's
see
what I
from a
was
safety viewpoint the ability for a young person or an older person or anyone who's feeling unsafe to be able to go and press something on that pole and talk directly to comms or something. I think that's something in the future I think would be great.
Thank you very much. Councillor Henstock, please.
Thank you. Just one further question in relation to the Eastern Suburbs Community Cohesion Projects. I'm just sort of interested in the what and the how there. There's not a lot of detail in attachment B as to what you're doing.
I'll hand that to my colleague.
Yeah, the amount of detail relates to the fact that this is the next phase of the ongoing work in the area. It's securing the resources. It anticipates an ongoing response in line with the findings of the report into the council's handling of the wastewater treatment fire. It covers a number of initiatives through mapping and building on community relationships. The hiring if that's where it goes, hiring some external expertise to monitor that, improve engagement. It also very much puts a sum of money in the Waitai Board's area to workshop through and identify initiatives. Some of the ones that have come up are obviously the wastewater treatment plant. There's a lot of uncertainty over coastal hazards, tsunami planning, community initiatives. So there's plenty to go on. They will be identified and locked down by the board. So this is a starter for 10, funding it out there in response. The detail will come.
Yeah, I'm not clear at all. I'll leave that over to the community board to pursue that further.
Thank you.
Okay, but before I go any further, I've got someone who will move it, which is me, and Councillor Cotter will second it going forward. We have one more question. We're talking around in circles here. I look at it as being, here we are giving money, $2 million, which we were given for nothing, spreading it out amongst people. So if we talk round circles, we'll be here for the rest of the day. So Councillor Donovan, and then I'll put it out there for vote, and I understand you've got an amendment.
In terms of the discussion with the community board, how much work has gone into the wastewater treatment plant recovery plan? Has that started yet?
It's been the work's been ongoing, councillor, and probably the last iteration was some communications that have gone out to local areas. This will enhance it, kick it up, identify relationships that aren't there, and work on what we need to do to maintain them. So this is the next stage.
But just to be clear, the plan hasn't started yet.
The plan started before immediately after the incident. It is ongoing, and it's probably fair to say that the phase. Yeah.
That's great.
Sorry.
And final question is, in terms of the community board priorities, in terms of what the Eastern Suburbs have requested in regards to funding such as this, two of the community board priorities relate to safety. So it's great to see that, as we'll see in the amendment coming up, that we are able to allocate things towards what the community board's requested so far. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Johansson,
Yeah.
this is the last
Yeah,
question.
very last, very quick. I'm just wondering if we need to make provision for the potholes fire recovery plan from this budget as well.
Councillor, I think it's too early to say.
Right.
It's precisely something we'll be working on, the allocation of resources, what's needed. At this point in time, yeah, potentially too early.
Okay.
And it may not be the subject matter of the Better Off Fund. Too early.
Well, it's both fire recovery. Okay.
Thank you for bearing with us at the moment. I'm just getting a bit of advice from my learned colleague here to my right.
So what we have is we have a suggested amendment by Councillor Donovan that she wants to ask the mover and the seconder if they are prepared to accept. Is that correct? So you'll second it.
If the mover and seconder aren't happy, I'm happy to second it if it needs a seconder.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
So
So,
we'll put it as
so
an
then
amendment.
we'll have to go into debate around these and then put the motion, put the amendment, and then if that's lost, put the main motion.
Can I just ask a question? I mean, have we got staff advice on this? Because how can we? That's a large quantum of public money. Have we got? I can't see anything in the papers that references that. Is there staff advice
So
provided?
do we put on? Lay it on the table until we get some staff advice.
Well, it'll slow down everyone else getting on
It
with
will.
their stuff.
It
I
will.
think that's a dangerous precedent because if everyone just starts hurling,
that one on the table.
oh, this one, not the entire
So that
item.
would be number 4, but you could go into debate and just put, have the debate and then put the full original, then put the amendment, and if it's lost, go on to the,
Isn't the
the
point that we
motions?
get this sort of stuff beforehand, the meeting? That's why we have it a week before, and we can have this information, then we can compare apples with apples.
Yeah,
and
agendas
come
have been
into
out
the
since
decision-making
Shall we
process.
have a wee rest for just a couple of minutes to get our head round it? Okay, so we'll adjourn for 5 minutes just to see exactly where we are.
Yeah, good idea.
really have to get going to the emergency operations centre, so I'm
Going to debate,
keen on getting
debate
this.
the amendment and put it to the vote.
Okay, so we've got the amendment in front of us. I'm going to put the amendment to the debate, and then we'll put it to the vote. So, Councillor Donovan starts.
Yep.
Yep, away you go.
So there was maybe a bit of confusion around this. So this is really about just framing the funding that's already been put forward towards the eastern suburbs towards a more specific focus. So the community board has 9 community board priorities. 2 of those are focused on safety. So the 2 areas that we've identified across the eastern suburbs for safety initiatives in particular are New Brighton and Woolston and also Eastgate Mall. So in terms of what the community board direction to council has been, we need to be focusing on safety initiatives in the eastern suburbs, but specifically in those 2 high priority areas. The reason that we've put a more specific request in terms of targeting those areas is to make sure that when this comes to the community board, we can be more strategic in how that money is allocated. This is something that the community board has been working quite hard on over the last year and a half. In the last few months, we've seen a massive spike in antisocial behaviour in the New Brighton Mall and also in other parts of the eastern suburbs. And of course, it would be useful to know a bit more data around what's causing that. But the anecdotal evidence or the feedback that we've had from retailers and other businesses that are looking to set up in areas such as New Brighton Mall is that they don't feel adequately supported to address some of those issues that they're experiencing. We anticipate that these safety initiatives will have a short lifespan. So for the next couple of years, as things get underway, as council continues to invest in those areas, we should see things turn around. But there is a period at the moment, much like the central city, where we've actually seen that there has been an increase in certain types of behaviours that we need to put a bit more support in place to make sure that we're delivering outcomes that benefit us as a city. So this is not a request for additional funding. This is a request for when the funding comes to community board, the community board staff have been delegated the authority to look at what projects would benefit from additional funding related to safety and other development and cohesion initiatives in those particular areas to give them the boost, to make sure that we're being strategic in how that's delivered and that it doesn't become too dispersed across a wider area and we lose focus of what the purpose of the Safety Better funding was supposed to be delivered for. And we appreciate the fact that there has been some confusion around the purpose of this, but ultimately it's about delivering on community board outcomes, and we appreciate the fact that this may seem like it's targeting certain areas over the rest of the city, but it's about prioritising areas of high need.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cotter. Did you? Oh, cough, sorry.
Look, I'll keep this pretty quick. I just think this is a super shoddy process. I think it's disrespectful to the community board chair, and my personal view is I'm not comfortable with this approach, but if you want to progress it the right way, I think send it to the community board.
Councillor McClellan?
Yeah, I'm not denying that the money probably should go to these areas. I just don't understand. Hopefully you can pick it up in your reply, or maybe Councillor Johansson can. Why handcuff? Do we not trust the board? Why do we not leave it just to the board to do it? I don't understand. Are they not? Do they want something different? I guess is my question. I would hate to be forcing them to do something that they don't want to do. Other than that, I'm supportive, if that makes sense.
Councillor McDonald?
Basically echo the sentiments of Goff and McClellan. I would have thought if the resolution, in my mind, the staff will work through it, was to literally allocate the money to the community board to make the decision, then I, for one, trust the community board to make the decisions. The priorities have already been identified. I'm not sure why, as a council, we need to be tagging specific money when we have a very competent community board that we should empower to make these local decisions. They'll make the right decision, but it's on them to make it, not us tagging it to a particular thing.
Thank you, Councillor Coker.
Yeah, I'll support this because I've sent it to the chair and they've had a read and of the community board and seem okay with it. So I will support it on that basis.
Okay. Councillor Moore?
Just something how you're able to clarify in a reply. Does that mean if there's a really, really good initiative in one of the neighbouring suburbs, that might be 5,000, does this mean they can no longer do that?
Yes.
That bit's just not making sense to me. I don't, yeah, I'm not seeing the point here if the board's making a decision anyway. Thank you.
Councillor Harrison Hunt? Tyler?
Kia ora. I just circulated the police.govt.nz/crime snapshot, and we saw some hotspots around the city around not only antisocial behaviour but victimisation, particularly around burglary, theft, robbery, abduction, and assault.
This is just about Celeste's amendment, buddy.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you see in the New Brighton Mall area, there is hotspots particularly around there and Wilson and Eastgate. If you're looking at Linwood East, for example, it's actually highlighted as a bright green closer to orange, but around those other ones would actually deem it to be orange, particularly around North Linwood and Phillipstown. So I'm happy to support this based on the need for this. And if the community board chair is actually in support of it, I'm going to be in support of it. So happy to support.
Okay, so we've had enough discussion and debate. You haven't done yours yet, have you? Thank you, Yanni.
Thank you. I think the reason for me why it's important to be more specific in the resolution is to be consistent. If you look at the smart polls, you're not delegating that to the community boards to choose. I mean, if you wanted to just take the idea that you'd give the community board the money and let them choose with the smart polls, then give every community board some funding and let them get on with it. But I think what's concerning is that this money, when we agreed to it, the Better Off funding, this is for safety initiatives in the community. But when you read the report, somehow those safety initiatives, which many of us have been asking staff, what's the process, what's going on, when are we getting visibility of it, has now been transformed into the wastewater treatment plant fire response. And I do kind of wonder how fair that is. We've got a Port Hills recovery plan. We've got money being spent on that response that's not coming out of Better Off funding. And yet the people in the wastewater treatment plant are still experiencing the vile stench. So, that issue is ongoing. That is having a massive impact on communities every day since November. ECAN have just given us a significant notice of non-compliance. So the idea that we would take safety money and put it into a fire response and recovery plan, to me just seems not the right approach. This money was supposed to go towards safety initiatives in the local community, and the communities that Celeste and I are putting forward are ones that have come to the council, come to the community board and said, we need support. We just had a really good group in New Brighton closed down, right? Because part of the letter they referenced was the fact that we weren't supporting them with security arrangements. This is the Guardians of Graffiti Domain, a really good group. So, I think this is a sensible approach. I appreciate the work that Celeste has done on it. This hasn't been through a lack of us trying to get staff advice on how we can use this money for safety initiatives. So if people feel we're inadequate information today, please don't think that it's because we haven't been trying as local councils for the area to get progress. But ideally, this should be based on need, and there are needs in this area, and that's why I support the amendment.
Thank you. And lastly, Councillor Donovan, have you got the...
Sorry, no right of reply for an amendment.
Right, thank you very much. Right, so we'll put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment that you can see on top of, up there, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those against? No. Right. Division, okay.
Well, no one really spoke when they voted against it.
Are we all ready?
Yep.
Councillor Moore? Councillor Johansson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Cotter? Councillor McClellan?
Yes.
Councillor Barber?
Yes.
Councillor Goff?
No.
Councillor McDonald?
Nope.
Councillor Kewen?
Abstain.
Councillor Fields?
Yep.
The Mayor?
No.
Councillor Scandrett? Councillor Harrison Hunt?
Yes.
Councillor Coker? Councillor Templeton? Councillor Donovan? Councillor Peters? Councillor Henstock?
Well done. That's
It carried.
That's carried. Thank you. Yep. Okay, so now we move on to the big one because I'm running out the door in any second.
You can go now.
I go now. Pauline, do it. Thank you. You go and